Sound is on. Don't worry about it.
Sounds on.
All right, so let's go ahead and turn our ISNs to page 64, where we have our element of plot notes, and we also might want to take out a highlighter for annotate. Okay? I got a bunch. Yeah, and Tara, in that pink thing right behind you, next to the baseball, right at the top are some highlighters.
Thank you. Can we have three?
Okay. So, when we annotate, it's important that we're probably highlighting the term and any words in that definition that really are going to help us understand that definition, okay? So, as we talked about this morning, we're going to be reading this and looking at stories throughout this unit to reach our learning target of identifying the elements of plot in a text. Okay? So that is what we are going to be focusing on today. Alright? But in order for us to be able to identify the elements of plot in a text, we got to learn what these things are, right? Okay? So these elements of plot exist in every single story. Whether it's a one-page story or a giant novel. Okay? Every single story has a beginning, middle, and end. Alright? And sometimes, have you guys ever read a story and you were just like, oh my gosh, that was terrible, I have no idea what just happened. Alright? They have these elements of plot, but they might just not have them in there very well, because maybe they're not following the directions. Alright? So we're going to learn about what each one of these are, and then we're going to practice it by watching a movie, okay? Exposition. This is the beginning of your story, okay? This is where it establishes characters and setting. Okay? This is your once upon a time in a land far, far away. There lived a princess. We don't need our computer right now. Sorry. Who was trapped in a dungeon by a dragon. Okay? So we're introducing our setting. We're introducing our characters. Okay? No real action has happened yet. There's not a ton of interaction between characters. It's just setting the stage for the story, okay? That's called the exposition. The inciting incident. This is the most important part of the story. Without this event, the story just wouldn't happen, okay? The inciting incident, what I want you guys to take away from this is that it starts the conflict, okay? So when we're identifying an inciting incident, we need to ask ourselves, what is the conflict? What does conflict mean? There's a conflict in the story. What am I talking about? Georgia.
Kind of like a disagreement or like some sort of, almost kind of an argument about one thing or another.
Okay, an argument about one thing or another for sure. Conflict can totally be that.
A problem that's arising that characters like don't really know much about.
Totally. That word problem. Okay? What is the problem of the story? What is the main character kind of trying to overcome? That's what the conflict is. And the inciting incident is the little sprinkle of event that gets that conflict going. Okay? Then we have the rising action. These are all the events that lead up to the climax, which is the turning point of a story. Okay? So for climax, I want you to take away that it is the turning point of the story, and that the rising action is everything that happens between that inciting incident and the climax. Okay? Now, in the beginning of your rising action definition in your notes, it says when the character tries to overcome the problems. Okay? That's another part that I'd like you to highlight. Now, in elementary school, sometimes we are taught that the climax is something other than the turning point. How many of you have the understanding that the climax is the most exciting part of the story? Okay. I need you to take that idea, and I need you to throw it out the door. Physically throw it out the door. Okay? Because while the climax can be the most exciting part of the story, sometimes it's very subtle, and it is not the most exciting part of the story. And if that's what we're looking for when we're trying to identify the climax, we might be doing ourselves a disservice. So instead, I'd like you to know that it is the turning point and the events that start leading to the resolution. The events that lead to the resolution. So in order for us to really be able to appropriately identify the climax, we need to know what the resolution is and ask ourselves what event took place that led to that, okay? Our falling action are the events that lead to the resolution, and the resolution is when the story's central problem is over. Now, does every story end with a happy ending?
No.
No. Can there still be a resolution if the character doesn't solve their problem?
Yes.
Yes. The story still ends. It just might not always end super happy. Okay? All right. Tip your ISN over to your plot triangle. Okay? And what I want you guys to do, okay, is we're going to kind of number the order that you should identify these things. All right? Because we're going to think that we're going to want to go linearly, but it's going to be really hard to list the rising action, which is all the events between the inciting incident and the climax, if we don't know what the climax is first, right? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to identify, because it is the easiest, is the exposition. All right? Just that beginning. So next to the exposition on your notes, I'd like you to put the number 1. Because that's going to be the first thing that we identify. Then, the inciting incident number is going to be the second thing we identify. Then we're going to skip all the way to the end of the plot triangle, and then we're going to identify the resolution. And the fourth thing we're going to identify is the climax. And that's because we don't know what the climax is until we know what the resolution is, because the climax is what leads to the resolution. Okay? And then the rest is easy peasy. We just fill in rising action with the remaining events and falling action with the remaining events. Okay? So this is kind of a little cheat sheet on a quick way to identify the different elements of plot in a story. Okay? All right. This is a lot of information. All right? I just gave you like 6 pretty heavy definitions. All right? We're going to do some practice today, and then your homework tonight is going to be practice as well, all right? So what I need you to do is, on your ISN, on the page next to where you taped in your triangle, or I'm sorry, on the page behind your triangle, my bad. All right? I'd like you at the very top to write the title, One Man Band. Okay, don't draw the triangle. Just write One Man Band. We're going to watch this video 2 times. The first time, we're just going to watch. Okay? The second time, we are going to watch, and then we are going to write down the main events. Okay? So, I'd like you to put pencils down. Turn your bodies to the front of the room. Okay? Move forward if you are having trouble seeing. And we're going to watch the video. Okay?
Alright, so we'll just pause it.